Vibe coding for designers. So I'm going to try and make this as fun and interactive as possible. So at any point, if you have questions, please stop me, right? So that it's not like a speech that I'm giving, right? So please stop me, ask questions. The first thing I want to talk to you about before I even jump into the presentation is the thing with vibe coding is you can leverage a lot of your fundamental understanding, and everything else you can use AI for your assistance, right? So the most critical thing about this whole being a good vibe coder or getting anything done using vibe coding is about knowing the fundamentals really well. And if you do know that well, you know exactly what AI is doing, and you can ask questions specific to your knowledge, and you can ask very specific questions to AI and get that kind of a prompt. And if you have a good prompt, you can pretty much do anything in vibe coding, right? So that's just one thing I wanted to get out there, because when we are discussing things, like, just make sure your fundamentals are very clear. That's the one thing that you need to measure yourself with. Okay, so in 6 weeks, this is what I wanted to first start by showing, like, what others have built, right? So I think Agnes and her friends, they all started with this Keys Garden. This is a community garden concept where it's kind of like a social media for people interested in growing their own gardens. So this was a full prototype that was made, and like, if you can see this, like a it's got a lot of features that people built in over, I think, close to 2 months or 2.5 months time. So yeah, you have a whole calendar view, month view, day view, and you can like add things that you wanna, like, that's happening in your garden, or like just post about general things. And then you have different events, you have a whole feed, and yeah, so you can like check off tasks. And this was a prototype that some students from this community built, and this was showcased in a major event. And yeah, so this is kind of like a quick peek into something that can be built very quickly, and by people who have no prior experience vibe coding, right? No prior experience of coding at all. And here's another example of something that was built by, oh, sorry, let me bring this up. Shafiq. So Shafiq built his portfolio on I believe Cursor. So how he built is, like, this is, you can see all sorts of nice fun animations, and like you can see all this 3D effects. It's actually pretty cool if you look at it. Like, he redid his entire website now, and this is all completely done on Cursor. So see, you have so many different pages. Hold on a second. Yeah. So yeah, so just wanted to kind of inspire you on like how people have gone from 0 to 1 and build something really interesting with just this knowledge of coding, right? So, and the goal is that by the end of this whole course, that you will also be able to be very comfortable making the same. So quickly, a recap of like what is going to be your next 6 weeks. So just tell me if you cannot see my screen or something else, right? So the first week, which is today, we'll go from idea to prototype, right? Like, just all of you in this call will have a prototype in 10 minutes. From your idea to prototype, we go there in 10 minutes. And then in week 2, we go from prototype to high fidelity wireframes. So you'll be learning how to do all these front end design, like how to actually design directly in vibe coding tools. So that'll be the focus of week 2. Week 3, we'll learn some basics of JavaScript. You'll learn about how, like, what is the purpose of JavaScript? How do you write JavaScript to, how is JavaScript integrated in these vibe coding tools? We're going to look into all of that in the third week. Fourth week, we'll go touch on databases, because until the fourth week, all your data is going to be stored locally. And then we'll introduce how Supabase is the database provider, how that works, and how you're going to make your application a little more dynamic. And then fifth week, we'll go into login and authentication. So this is going to be like people can create accounts and hobby and all of that stuff, right? And sixth is going to be about how to create your own domain, like how to put your app online and then just like share it with the world. So this will grow incremental in difficulty. So of course, the first week 1 and 2 is going to be like pretty simple, and from 3 and 4 onwards, your complexity will increase. So I guess you'll have to spend a little more time on your own learning these concepts that we go through here, and I'll share these slides with you afterwards as well. So you should like take your own time to kind of understand how things work, and I'll show you everything. And just having that solid fundamental grasp, as I said earlier, is the one that's going to make all the difference. Okay, so to build your first app, right, we're going to use a very, this is kind of like this new approach that brings much better results with your vibe coding than just going and saying on your vibe coding tool, like, I want to build an app for XYZ, right? Instead, we're going to do something very different with two different agents, right? So you have your idea, and what we're going to do is we're going to use Perplexity. I hope everyone here has heard of Perplexity. If someone hasn't, Perplexity is kind of like this Google search, but AI powered Google search, right? So it has access to the internet, and it can look up information in real time. And the interesting thing about Perplexity is that it has this deep research mode, and deep research mode is genuinely mind blowing, because what it does is it takes your requirement and it creates an entire plan, and then it looks for information from each of this. It looks at like 5 to 10 different sources, compiles all that information into one task, and then it goes into the next task, and it keeps doing this until it finds like all the information related to your search and gives an extensive report. This is extremely useful. But the biggest challenge here is that most people don't know how to use it for your benefit, right? Most people think, oh, it's a very theoretical thing. Like, maybe if I'm in school and I have to write a research paper, maybe this is useful. But this can be a very good advantage when you're like trying to build prototypes. And that's what I'm going to show you how. And the next agent we are going to use is a UX research to MVP agent. So you use Perplexity to do some sort of UX research, and then you turn that UX research into an MVP, and that MVP goes into Lovable, right? So this is kind of like the process that is going to get you from 0 to 1 in 10 minutes, right? See, these are the things that is not officially documented, but then the more you start using AI agents, you start to understand what's the best way to communicate to an agent, and then you use AI agents to help you communicate that better, to turn your idea into a format that makes communication with tools like Lovable, Cursor easier, right? So later we'll talk about how to write better prompts, like what's the way to write a prompt that gets you lesser errors and how to be more clear, and we'll have all those principles. We'll talk about that later. But for the first task, what we're going to do is all of you have your own ideas, right? So I have something built for you. This is something that you can do it yourself, and we will build this together right now, and then we'll have two people show what you got, and then we can continue from there, right, in the interest of time. So I'm gonna share prompt builder. Okay, so I have this app. I'm gonna put it in the link here. So I built this. As I said, I will also be building alongside you guys. So this app, basically, if you go and if you log into the app, you can just like sign in with Google. This app is also in the making. So I'm going to build this app with you all in this program. So just sign in with Google. Once you're in this thing, you're going to see a button called app research and idea. Okay, research an app idea and suggest MVP flows, just this research part. So what you're going to do is just click on that, and you can just say, like, describe the app you want to research. Just put your idea in there, like whatever idea you had planned, like whichever app you wanted to build. You can look up your Telegram. You'll find your apps over there. Just take that concept and just put it in here. So let's say I want to build, financial tracker for teenagers, something like that, right? So you're going to put your idea over here, and what it will do is it will update the text here.
Sorry, I don't think you're sharing your screen.
Oh, I'm not? Oh, for a while, or oh my god.
Okay. I don't know exactly.
It's been like a few minutes now, yeah.
So please tell me if I stop sharing. Yeah, that was not intended. Okay. So let me go again, and okay. So this is the app that you will see once you're logged in, right? So once you're here, go into research, right? So as I said, the first part that we're doing is this part. So we're going to take your idea and we're going to do some UX research on your idea in a matter of minutes. So we're going to do that using Perplexity, right? So once you put your idea here, so you can say, I want to build a financial tracker for like teenagers, right? Something like that. And then when you scroll down, you can just copy the prompt, right? So quickly to walk through what's happening here. This is a long agent prompt that I created a while ago, and it's a simple thing. Like how to write prompts is slightly out of scope right now, but I can just like touch on what this does so that you know what's happening. So what we're asking Perplexity to do is to we've given it a role, the role of an expert product strategist and UX researcher, and its goal is to find similar applications and give a prompt that will work using bolt.new and other apps similar to that, like Lovable that we're going to use. So the goal is to take an app idea, research UX flows and interaction patterns for different web experiences, and synthesize findings into tailored architecture that fits the app concept. So we're asking it to go look at different apps similar to your idea, understand their interaction patterns, how they work, how they interact, what data they need, and create a comprehensive report with which we are going to use to create our first prototype, right? So this is kind of like the new way of approaching research. So if you copy this, and then you can go to perplexity.ai, and you can create an account on Perplexity really quickly, just sign in with Google. And once you're here, you just have to select the second button, this button that says deep research. I have a pro, but if you don't have a pro, that's fine. You'll still get like three times of deep research for free even in your basic version. So just go here, select this deep research, and just paste whatever you copied in your clipboard. Just paste the whole thing here, and just select your deep research, and just hit this arrow. And any questions so far?
Sorry, I just have a question. So I see the text below the prompt, but what are we supposed to do with the top text where we put in our idea? Like, I want to build an app that.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you
then,
don't have to do anything. Once you type your idea there, the bottom text automatically adapts that top text. So you just have to scroll down and copy prompt. That prompt will already the text that you entered.
Okay, because it didn't look like it like changed anything in there. But yeah, that's fine.
Oh, it's there. It's at the end. You know, like if I type this, see, you can see here's the app idea, and then it puts the text at the end. So yeah, it's not very obvious. Yeah. So yeah, all that's doing is just giving you a prompt basically, because each time, so in this AI world, these are called prompt templates. So for you to be writing prompts, such detailed prompts each time is not productive. So you use prompt templates like this, and there are tons of prompt templates. There are prompt marketplaces online where you can buy prompts. So this is how we are like speeding things up by using prompt templates, and you can use this for any idea, right? So regardless if you're working in an organization and you want to make a prototype for something quick, you can use the same prompt template. Yeah, so that deep research should take maybe a couple of minutes. Is everyone clear on the tasks so far? If just let me know if something is not clear.
So we put our idea very briefly in 1 to 2 lines, the way you showed, like, and then whatever we get in this, we put it into Perplexity's deep research, right?
Exactly, but you don't have to do it in just 2 lines. Try to be as descriptive as possible. Like if you have like more information to add, feel free to add inside the application, right? So whatever you put one idea, of course, don't put multiple ideas, put one idea, and whatever you pasted on Telegram, you shared earlier, you can just put that here. You can just put your copy paste that idea over here and generate your prompt, right? Yeah, Nicole?
Have you tried comparing this research mode versus
Nicole, you're
the... Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Mhm.
So my question is, have you compared this with the rest of the research mode, such as ChatGPT? Why specifically Perplexity?
So the difference between platforms is simply the agent performance, right? Some platforms perform better than the other, and you can be your own judge comparing the output. For me, Perplexity has been a really good one for these kind of tasks, because it's just how they've written their agent instructions behind the scenes, what happens, right? So I just seen better results on Perplexity. You could technically use ChatGPT too. Feel free to do so. There's nothing wrong with it, but this is a great tool for this purpose, Perplexity.
Okay, so for
Because Perplexity is
research
primarily
purpose,
built around. Sorry, I don't know if
okay,
it's my
maybe I
internet
think
or
there's
yours. Okay. Can others hear me fine? Or is it just, is it me?
yeah, I can hear you. I
Able
think
to
it's
hear.
just
Okay. Okay, so there's a delay, yeah? Maybe my RAM slow, something like that. Let me check.
yeah, but my question was just that whether have you compared to the ChatGPT research mode? Is that which one is better, or any other research mode? And then did
I
you see
think,
any?
yeah, so see, Perplexity is built specifically for internet searches, you know. So ChatGPT is built for a wide range of use cases. It's built for doing math problems, like doing like text generation and a lot of things. So this is more of a specialized tool. So, and for that, for our use case, it's better we pick a specialized tool than a generalized tool, you know. So I would pick this one over ChatGPT only because it's specialized for doing internet research. But that said, like some of you might find ChatGPT results better. So my answer would be do it in both if you're not sure of one. You know, I would do it in multiple platforms. And the same goes to the final app that you build. You can use the prompt on different platforms. Try it on Bolt, try it on V0, try it on Lovable, and see which one you like better, right? Because each agent does its own task in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So sure. So if you have your UX research, so you'll see something like this, right? So here's an example of what I was looking at yesterday. Like I was trying to look for a driving test application, but for Indian context. So this is kind of like the UX research report that Perplexity will give you. So it'll give you some competitive analysis summary. It'll look at other leaders in the market who have very similar concept, and like what some key ideas about it, like how many languages it supports, and like what is unique about it. So it'll do all of these like assessments. So you literally have your competitive analysis from your Perplexity in just a matter of minutes, right? And then you also have common UI patterns. So you have patterns around layout patterns and visual hierarchy. So you have like how does successful driving test application reveal, like, you know, what is the UI pattern? So it says card based layouts, or clean minimalist design, prioritize content readability. So so it goes into a lot of detail on what you would be doing as a designer, and it gets all these like summary of things, and all of this is going to be really helpful in making your MVP prototype, because this is literally the things that you would be doing as a designer but manually, but now we're using AI to automate a lot of this. Yeah, Nicole.
Yeah, I just turn on my camera so that signal is better. So I don't see my result return me the workflows or UI patterns. Is this a bug?
So No, you'll see if you scroll down here, you'll see something like this. You'll see secondary navigation, primary navigation, and you'll see like the learning flow. This is the flow. So you don't have like your visual UX flows, but there's a text format representation of the same flows. It'll say things like from app launch, you go to user registration page. And from this one, you go into language selection. And then from here, you go to the dashboard. So this is hard to read for us, but it's a visual representation, and your computer will read it fine. So you don't have to worry about this. So you should be getting all of these things. Yeah, Sumedha?
Good.
Yeah, when I put in this prompt builder, when I put my idea, I have to
Mhm.
copy the entire UX research prompt, and at the end it gives me the same in two
Yeah,
stars. So I have to copy the entire thing
yeah.
and put it in Perplexity's deep search.
Yeah, you just say copy prompt, right? Like you
Yeah,
just click on copy prompt.
yeah, when I clicked on copy prompt, it just it gave everything. Sorry.
Everyone else good with so far? Okay, so now you have your UX research report, right? So you understand like how the whole marketplace for your idea looks like, right? So what you need to do is now create an MVP based on this. So how do we decide what's an MVP? An MVP should focus on one specific function. So you have a simple working product that you can test with your users, right? And it has to solve one specific problem. But in our case, we are going to also trim it down to start with the most simplest version, right? So for this, you just copy what at the end you can see this like little copy button. Just copy your entire UX report, and then go back into the tool that I just sent you. And this time you can close this dialog and go to this one that says generate MVP from PRD, right? So we have a PRD, like research, which is also kind of a product requirements document. And then you just like paste the whole thing here. Don't have to do anything. Just scroll all the way down. It's a long prompt because that entire research report plus a prompt is getting added to this. And now copy this prompt, right? So what this prompt will do is to take your research report and create an application, an MVP application. So this is how we are able to get to an MVP like really fast from an idea. So we copy this prompt, and then you can go into anything you want. You can go into ChatGPT, you can go into Claude, whichever you prefer. If you pay for ChatGPT, go ahead and go to ChatGPT and just paste this whole thing, and then it will automatically create this whole report for you. So yeah, Corinne.
Sorry, can you just repeat the first step again? Like you copy the whole research report and then you put it in, and then you go into like MVP shipping thing, and then do I paste it at the top, or
Yeah, so okay.
just show it again? Okay.
First, we take our idea, research with Perplexity, then we turn that research report into an MVP, right? So
Yeah.
for turning to an MVP, what we are doing is going here and selecting PRD to MVP because
Yeah.
we have research report. So come here and paste your Perplexity's output. You just paste everything
Yeah.
from
Okay. Okay. And then I copy it again.
exactly. You scroll down and then you just copy the prompt.
Okay. Perfect.
And then when you go, you can put it in ChatGPT, Claude, doesn't matter. Just take the best model that you can select. So on ChatGPT, I would even select like O3 or like, so what this is going to do is going to understand your UX research and then try to extract what's the simplest functional product that you can build. I mean, maybe I can just like talk through that prompt as well, so you have an understanding of what's happening. So yeah, so MVP distillation agent. So this is a product strategist specializing in converting UX research reports into MVPs, right? For prototyping in tools like v0bolt.new. So it has like an architect. So this is sort of like the role. It's an MVP architect and a feature minimalist. Output must enable development in like, I also specify number of tokens. This is because I want no errors in this like first building thing. A lot of people, when you start off, you find a lot of errors. So I wanted it to be super simple and focused on your idea. And yeah, like then it drills down into how to create an MVP. Like how do you process input instructions? Like identify one primary problem, extract the single most important user action, determine the minimum viable flow to complete that action, ignore all the secondary features, analytics, social features, and advanced functionality. So we are just trying to find the minimum, most basic version of your idea, and we are letting AI do that for us, right? And it uses this research report and distills an idea. This is typically what a designer would be doing at a company, but manually. Now we are just trying to do all of that just with AI agents. Okay, so when you have your output from your app, all you need to do is just go copy whatever it sent you, right? So you just copy this. So if you see what did ChatGPT create for us? It created a product requirements document. It created a product requirements document for the minimum viable product. It said, look, this is the thing that we're going to build. Here's the whole navigation architecture. This is the whole user flow diagram. This is the whole in-app experience flow. Look how detailed it created in terms of the expectation. And this is the whole key of good prompting. Clarity is the most important thing, because the more instructions and more clarity you give in your prompt, the better results that you can expect. So most of us, we try to just prompt in the wild, just without understanding what's exactly happening. That's the biggest mistake, that you should try to be as clear as possible. So we are hacking this clarity through using AI agents. But in future, when you're trying to prompt yourself as well, have this in mind, that you need to give as much information as possible into your prompt, so the chances of errors are much, much lower. Yeah, so once you've copied it, this is all you need, right? So now you can go into lovable.dev. So, okay, something about tools, right? The tools really doesn't matter. It's the same as ChatGPT versus Perplexity, right? Like the concepts that you understand, it will apply across all the tools. Just the interface is slightly different, and one interface is made for some designers, one interface is made for developers, but under the hood, everything that happens is the same. So on Lovable, the advantage is that you have everything is on the browser. On Cursor, for example, is on your local system. So if you have project files on your local system, it's easier to bring it into Cursor and do things on Cursor. On Lovable, it's so simple because it's like all online, right? So what you're going to do is just go put your product description that ChatGPT generated into Lovable, and then just go hit on this arrow and you'll see your app. So just give it like a minute or two, and then you should see your app. And let me know, raise your hand if you have finished if your application is done. And then I'd like for you to share your screen and show me what you have, because it's quite interesting to see. So for example, I think I found this one that someone put on a movie tracker. So yeah, so you can just so this is kind of like the very minimum viable product, right? It's just like to track movies and to rate movies. That's it. It's a simple application, but you'll find something similar to what you had in mind. But don't worry if it's not the best application that you can imagine. That's what we're going to be building over the next 6 weeks. So we're going to be starting with a basic prototype, and we're going to be incrementally adding features to it over the next 6 weeks. So your application is going to grow. But here on day one, you already have your MVP. That's the world we live in today. Yeah, Siddhant, you done?
Hey, hi Ashwin. No.
Hey.
So I just had a question. So
Mhm.
I just wanted to know that we followed a process, which is like we used a prompt template and then we fed it to Perplexity. And then we again used a prompt template and we then converted the research of our Perplexity to a PR, like to a MVP basically. We are converting our PRD. So I was just thinking that did we require like this two templates to convert this? Like we could have done it in a single template or something. Or
Yeah.
so this was one question. And another question was, is this process like this has worked better for you, like working in a live, like maybe for you in a company where you're working? So is this some kind of process we usually follow to get better results or something? So this were like my two questions. So
Very good question. So to answer your first question, yes, I could have just built an agent that does both. I could come to you and be like, "Here, paste your idea and here's your thing and put it into Lovable." But I wanted to explain to you the process. Like I wanted to tell you what's going on behind the scene, because this is exactly how you could be doing when you're prototyping something quick, right? Because when you just take an idea, you're going to let AI decide the architecture and everything, things that there's more likelihood of it hallucinating. So it makes sense to do some research before, right? So I'm just trying to share the process with you, and that's why I did this, right? But you're right. Like I could just build one agent for both. That was what I had in mind initially. And to answer your second point, wait, sorry, can you remind me of your second question again? Like, would I do this?
like
Real
in
life?
company, in real life. Yeah.
Okay, so the thing with companies like mine, like or all the companies that I've worked before, is that we don't start from zero. There's always a product, right? So the process around that is slightly different from process starting from zero. But when I make landing pages for like something I want to build, or when I have to make like some prototype of something quick of an idea that I had, this is the best way, you know? Like yesterday I was talking to someone and we were chatting about an idea, and then I was like, hey, you know what, in the time we are actually chatting about this idea, let's just see what it looks like, you know? And in 10 minutes we had a working application, right? So this is crazy that you can just go from an idea to a completely working application in literally 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Yeah, no.
I was just thinking, I think there are multiple approaches to build an application, and depending where you are in your vision, sometimes you have a very undefined vision, so you cannot, like, you don't have a vision.
Yeah, I think Anna, you were breaking for a bit. Now it's fine. Yeah. Can you say it again?
Yeah, my internet is not very reliable. Sorry, I'm not home. Yeah. I think sometimes it makes sense to start small and start with a part of your idea and then build upon it. So maybe it is also an option not to overwhelm your Lovable with a huge prompt from the first go, but you can also refine it later and experiment with multiple ideas. So I wouldn't put too much pressure on figuring out all the details from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's multiple ways to get to an outcome, but I believe this is it's an imitation of a typical designer's workflow. It's what we do here in our company, where like once we receive a certain requirement, we do a competitor analysis. We do try and understand what patterns exist. So going and doing this thing is important because you create something that is more likely to work when you launch, rather than some idea that just like, you know, it's an idea that doesn't follow any patterns and stuff, right? So yeah, I mean, it could work, but like the biggest bet you can make with something is to learn about what already is working and then try to use a lot of those learnings. So that's why this is kind of a suggested process. Yeah, Nicole.
Just wondering, what's the process look like in your current company right now using it to build a prototype?
Yeah, so we get a requirement, we go do our research, check out what competitors are doing, check out what, you know, existing data that we have, check out what other, you know, other things that we need to consider, information that we need. So we do all of that research, and then we go into the design phase, right? Then we also like do some UX research.
How do you use AI in each stage?
Okay, so this thing is about MVP building. So we are trying to build something from 0 to 1. As I said before, we don't do this in my company. But if you worked at a startup, you're going to likely do this, right? If within your company you are tasked to come up with a tool for some specific use case from 0 to 1, you're likely to use the same process, right? But we are doing this now because you have an idea, and we are going from your idea, which is 0 to 1, which is a fully built product. And over the next 6 weeks, we are learning all the different things to do with vibe coding as we build your idea. So that's why we are using this approach.
Awesome. My prototype is ready.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and share your screen and show? What do you have?
Sure. Love to. Oh shit. So, sorry, I need to.
Mine is ready as well. Sure.
Maybe you can go ahead. because
Okay,
of
go ahead.
my-
Show what you have.
Mm. You're able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what prompt I gave was like basically I wanted to create a multi-destination itinerary planner where the user can save multiple itineraries and have a price-wise comparison between two itineraries to suit his or her budget. So I did the entire process and now it says that ready for your next travel and start planning your trip. It gives yeah, I can start planning my trip
Mhm.
and enter the destination. Okay. But it's
Okay, just say finish planning for now. Maybe it'll have some fake data. So yeah, okay. Oh, you can. Is this something like what? Maybe add more destinations.
Seventh.
I think your end date should be in June. Yeah, so you finish planning. Okay, so yeah, I guess it's a basic one. I mean, is this what you had in mind, or did you have something else in mind when you imagined this?
I had something else in mind, but I didn't know exactly how to go about it, but it gave me a basic idea of how it is putting.
Okay, yeah, so this is a good start.
Yeah.
Like you're going to learn how to like make tweaks to this, how to build on this, but this is a start, right? The start is what we're looking for. Anyone else has something interesting? Thank you. Yeah, Karan.
Yeah, I could share. Just need to go into the thing here. Okay, so this was an app to measure the air quality at playgrounds in Berlin for parents. And this is what it came up with. I hope you can see my screen. And it's a little bit confusing because this doesn't really look like a map, but okay, you can click in here and then it shows you air quality index.
We can see your screen.
You can't. Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry. I have to do. Oh, I can't share my screen. Sorry, I have to set it up somehow. Maybe we can just skip it. It's fine.
Oh, you can also just hit on publish at the end and just share that link. Like there's like a publish button. You just publish it.
Publish, okay. Publish, and then I share the link.
Yeah, just once it's published, share the link. Maybe meanwhile, someone else, if anyone else has, yeah.
I could go.
Yeah.
Although it looks nothing like what I had in my mind. I should probably write better. But yeah, just give me a second.
I mean, like there's always like take what AI generated, tweak it, and use it. That's the best way, right? So at least you have some start from. Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I have. Now I'll show you what I had in my mind though, because that should give you a better idea. So you see this? The pop fidget thing, whatever this is called. So when I guess when I first wrote the prompt on the group, I said bubble wrap. But then yesterday, as I was thinking it through, I was like, maybe not that. Let's just do this. It's way simpler. But what I ended up having over here is this. I don't know what this is. I have no idea how it works. I guess if I click, yeah, like I somehow ended up getting to a score of 70 by clicking on random stuff. I have no idea. So
okay,
I have to figure what's up.
I see. Okay, I guess what you could do is take that PRD of an MVP and just look through both the prompts and see if like it clearly describes what you had in mind, and see how you can add more clarity in terms of how you want it. And you can also put an image inside Lovable. You can put an image of the example that you had inside Lovable and use that as a reference. So that will give you more. So I would go back and try again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Nicole.
Oh, I'm just ready to share.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, share.
Sure, are you guys able to see it?
Yeah, I can see your screen. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the screen. So the prompt itself was asking to build a lightweight hormone health tracker, which using the original one was using a biometrics to sync up with those wearable devices. But I think the AI completely stripped down that feature and just makes this very lean and minimum for the MVP. I think it's no wearable integrations, no logins, no history tracking. Yeah, I think that's the MVP prompt, which led to these very simple features where users can just start daily checking by self-report entries. And I tried a few. I found it's interesting that it gives this insights feedback, and then I don't know whether there's when you choose not quite, but it just lead back to homepage again. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, yeah, I guess it picked like the one basic feature rather than a whole application. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good. Like, I mean, see, this is something that you can build on top of, but this lays the foundation of your core action that you are looking for from this application, right?
Yeah, definitely. So super impressive that it just turned out the basic start simple flow already, and you can totally see the theme it's picked is also some of the competitor products theme. Yeah, or logos. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The main point I wanted to make here is the power of AI agents, right? The power of a right process and an AI agent. This process you can innovate. You can come up with your own different processes, tweak to fit into your own organizational or goals and stuff like that. But using AI agents, you can go from your problem to solution in very innovative ways. That's the main point I wanted to.
What's the reason you put the 3,000 tokens here as a limit?
Yeah, so the more tokens means like it's building more features, like it's building more, and the more things it builds, the chances of errors are higher. So I intentionally limited it here so that everything that you all build has the least chances of errors. That's why I took this. But it's always good to start lean and then add things on top of it incrementally. If you build a very bulky application right at the start, your chances of errors are a lot, and you'll have to trim down. You'll have to know which ones you don't need. You don't know what all unnecessary logic it added that you would never use later, right? So that's why you start lean and add more incrementally as you need is a better approach to building software in general. Okay, cool. Thank you, Nicole. Let me open Karin's app as well, because this looks kind of interesting. So, okay, so looks like it created an entire map view. And can you zoom? It doesn't zoom. Yeah. So when you click on this, it shows, yeah, the air quality index. When it gave like the address and some pollutant levels, directions, and view forecast. Is this what you had in mind, Karan?
Yeah, I think the map definitely, but yeah, we have to see how you navigate from there. But it's not too far off, I would say.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So here you have some legend.
You know, definitely need some names or something. I mean, you don't really know where you are on this map. So, but I guess that's something you can build on, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Awesome. So great. All of you have your MVPs. If you're not happy with what you have so far, again, as I said, tweak your prompts, right? See how you can add more details into what you exactly want into your prompt. And the more information you give, the more closer shot you'll get in terms of what you had in mind, right? Add images as a reference, add, code snippets from other things as a reference. That's a bit advanced. We will go into that a bit detail. But for now, you can try adding images as reference, try to be more descriptive with words, exactly describe how you want the interface to be. So because ChatGPT is generating this prompt for you, you can go reply in ChatGPT and ask it to make changes. So you can be like, hey, I want the first page to start with a login, or I want the first page to start with this kind of interface that does this. And then ChatGPT will automatically update your prompt based on what you just said. And you can now use that as the starting point, right? So work with ChatGPT until you have the right prompt that fits into what you want. And then Lovable has more chances of getting what you had in mind, right? Yeah, Sridaksha.
So what changes can I expect in Lovable? I mean, what can I prompt in Lovable? For visual changes, or I didn't get that.
So we are going to be building we're going to be building the entire application on Lovable in the next weeks, right? So right now, what we're doing is the basic version we are generating on Lovable first, right? So it creates the whole application. It creates the logic, the front end, like the basic state management and all of that. If that doesn't make sense to you, don't worry, we'll go into those theory. But it creates the first version of the application, the long story short, right? And you can do, you can say anything to Lovable later. You can say, add this, make this visually different, change this color, or do anything. Everything is up to you, right? Yeah, I think that's a good segue into going into what Lovable actually is. Let me share my screen. And so, hope you can see my screen. So we did this so far, and let's go into quickly how Lovable works, right? So Lovable is actually super simple, right? So you have a chat with AI agents on the side. So I think this is a concept that for you to understand what an agent does. So what's the difference between agent and just an LLM? Is an LLM like ChatGPT will take a question and give you an answer, right? It's trained on some knowledge. It just gives you an answer based on whatever prediction it does, right? And an agent is autonomous, which means it creates a plan. It knows exactly how to solve your problem, and it goes on its own, tries and executes the plan, and it checks if the plan was executed correctly and comes up with its own backup plan. And it does all of these things on its own until your result is achieved, right? So that's the difference. So what you have here in Lovable behind the scenes is an agent. So when you give it such a long prompt like this, it'll go and create a plan. So and then it'll say, behind the scenes, it'll think about what are the things that needed, and then it'll go and create individual ideas for that on its own. So you have this toggle over here, which is code viewer and the design viewer, I think. So when you go here, you can see the entire code. So you can see that there are different folders, and within each folder, there are different files. Don't worry about what's inside this code. We're going to be covering all of those in the next 6 weeks. But yeah, for now, just all you need to know is that you can choose to directly edit things in code, or you can choose to directly edit things in a prompt. Both are ways to go about making changes to your designs. You have other options, you have this one. Will just open this window in a new tab. That's just how you want your setup to be. This is managing Supabase. This will come in week 4 or week 5. Also, GitHub will come in week 4. So this is inviting others to your project. And you can also go to settings, and then within settings, you can add some kind of knowledge, right? So you can add information about what you're trying to build, for example. So every time So what happens, like, what is this instruction basically? This instruction is inserted into every prompt as a context. So anything that you say here is going to be inserted into the prompt when you type something inside Lovable over here. That's what's happening. So you can have global instructions, whatever you think, like for example, always use this color palette, an instruction, right? Always use design systems as a reference. Don't create your own UI components is an instruction. So I already have predefined working instructions that I'm going to give to you all in the next few weeks. So you don't have to worry about writing this yourself. But how I did it was, again, I captured some of the common repeated ones. I took from existing patterns, and then I built it on ChatGPT. And now I have an instruction file. So this is how, like, as you grow in terms of how, like your comfort level with these tools, you're writing more instructions so that the repeated things that you don't have to debug every time, and it just follows the instructions and does that for you each time, right? So that's how you go from like a beginner to an advanced vibe coder. So yeah, so I think pretty much this is like the basics. Oh wait, there's a few. So you have a few more ways that you can interact with your application, right? So one is the chat mode. So if you see over here, you have this thing called as a chat mode. So what that chat mode does is it just answers questions about your application. So you can ask questions like, where is my data stored, right? Because we have this data, right? So when I type for Godfather, I can see this Godfather, right? So this is where you're trying to ask questions about your code base for your own curiosity. This is how you learn, right? You're going to learn by understanding your code base gradually as you ask more questions. So ask as many questions as possible. So when you say, where's my data stored? It'll go and like look into your code base and try and tell you, okay, is this coming from online somewhere, or is it coming from someplace else? And it'll tell you. So when you click on this chat, it won't make changes to the code. So even if you say do something, it won't do it because that access to making code gets blocked. So it'll just answer your questions, right? So see, I've examined your movie ratings data stored in local storage in your browser. Here's how it works. Current data storage. And this is the key format. Like the details of like the technical details, we'll go into this later. So, but it clearly tells you, okay, data persists between browser sessions, no setup required, works offline. Data is only stored in this specific browser. If you clear your browser data, ratings are lost. Can't access your ratings from other devices. So you can see and learn how your data management is by just asking questions, right? So try and ask questions about your application. Like try and ask questions like, you know, what font is it using? What, you know, just whatever you're curious about your application, you can ask. The other thing that you can use is the edit mode. The edit mode will just let you select a specific thing like this. I selected find movie, and I can make like simple edits like changing the margin, changing the spacing, you know, you can play with how you want your visuals to be just using the visual builder. This is an advantage of Lovable versus Cursor. You don't have this thing on Cursor. That's one good thing about Lovable, right? So you can actually just like do your own front-end designing to an extent directly using this tool. So this is why I think Lovable is like preferred a lot within the design community. Yeah, so and then once you have advanced, now you have this part. Don't worry about these. This is like advanced CSS. Once we touch on CSS modules, like you'll have an idea of how we can generate stuff like this and then put it inside this thing. But for now, you try to see as much that you can do within the simple controls. Or if you want to have very specific controls, you can ask in chat, like, you know, make this drop down bigger, or like suggest have some options of movies right displayed in the homepage, whatever, right? So you can do that. And attach is how you attach an image reference. So if you want your application to look like something else, this is how you add your references, and it'll follow the same approach when you do that. Okay, things over here is again a little more advanced. GitHub is for storing your code online so it can be accessed by others. And it also has like a version history. So if you have different versions of your code that you incrementally build, you can track all those versions. And then you have your project settings, which I just showed you. And again, Supabase is the database we'll touch on later. And knowledge is, again, knowledge is inside project settings, so it just like accesses this. So all these are for like configuring your own domain name. If you want to link this to your own domain that you buy, you can do that from this section. But we'll go into details of that more. But for now, what you need to know is just this is how you can interact with your application and make changes to it, or you can ask questions and learn more about your application. Okay, how Lovable works. We touched on that. And okay, some basics of like what's really happening under the hood. This is maybe most of you already know this, but just wanted to touch on it so that you understand what exactly is happening. So when your browser, when you access a specific website from the browser, goes to your router and it connects to a server where this code base is stored, this program files are stored, which is then redirected back to your browser. This is basically the high level workflow of what's happening when you go type something on the browser, right? Simple stuff. So your job as a developer is to make sure your client, your server, and the internet work together. So when I say your client, I mean this, right? When I say server, I mean this. So in future, when we start going to advanced concepts, this will make sense because we will start thinking about what is done on the server, and then we'll start thinking about what is done on the browser, because each of them have their own specific functionality and things that they're responsible for. And all of this is, when you start building a much complex application, we need to think about those things. Okay, so quick intro to HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right? These are different things that we're going to talk about, but I'll quickly go over like, what each of these are. Just quick question on the group. Does anyone know all of, like, does anyone not know any of this? Like, just raise your hand if someone is not familiar with these concepts. Okay. Cool. All right. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's quickly touch into this, right? So I'm going to publish this thing. I'm sure you already, like some of you might have tried it out already. So when I publish this thing, right? So I'm going to open this link. So what it did was it opened like this link that was created within Lovable. So the server is Lovable in this case, right? So we access from the browser. The Lovable servers store this application and gives us back that response, and we are displaying that on the browser. This is what is exactly happening. So if you tap on Command Option I on my Mac, or on your Windows, I think like Windows Option I or something, I can look it up and tell you, but it'll open something like this. Like on the side, you will open a window. So this window basically is your code base, right? So you access your code base through this window, and there are a few types of code. Like you have the big three are like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. These are the big three based on which your entire website runs. So on HTML is what you call as a markup. So a markup is like you have all this text. So for example, let me just, right. So you can see the Godfather listed over here. So what is this Godfather? So if I go and click this little arrow, I can go select what this is. And you can see that it's actually a button, right? So it's a button. So you mark it up as a button. And then you have certain classes. Don't worry about these classes. These classes are like ways that you can style your application. W full means like width full. Text left means like the text is aligned on left. How you create these classes. You never would have to type this thing ever, you just have to, you will use AI to generate this for you. So all you need to know is that this is a button, and this is different classes that styles that button, right? And if you open this, you can see that the Godfather is written within it. So you have these like closing tags. So this tag is an opening tag, and this tag is a closing tag. I don't know if you can see my screen properly. Let me zoom in a bit. Yeah, so you can see that every HTML tag has an opening one and a closing one, and the information contained within it is within that HTML tag, right? So this, if you can just go and select, right click and say edit as HTML, you can see that this is the entire HTML for just this button. And you have several markups. So you have a markup for a container. Like this whole three things together is wrapped in another opening and closing tag. So you can see it's wrapped inside what is called as a div. Div is a container of different elements that you put inside that you have in your HTML, right? So basically your application is a combination of several different divs. You have a div for this. So if I keep scrolling up, you can see on the left which ones get selected. So this is a div for this. And then if I go up, you can see a div for the header. You can see a div for the whole section. You can see how it like packages from the inside to the outside. So each one has a wrapping on top of it. So this is how on the back end, your code is created, right? So it goes all the way until this doc type HTML. This is kind of like the rootmost thing. So this is a standard pattern. You always have doc type HTML, and then you have an HTML tag, which is to indicate this is the whole website. And then you have some language preference. You can like create your application in several languages. So that's why this is an attribute that comes in the box inside an HTML tag. To know what are different tags, you can just go into MDN docs HTML, right? So MDN stands for mozzarella. I think, yeah, mozzarella came up with this documentation. So this is the language, hypertext markup language. So you have all these different tags. You have the head tag, title tag, body tag, header tag, footer tag. You don't have to learn these tags ever. You would never have to write your own tags, except very special edge cases. But for most of our work, you're going to let AI generate it, but just for you to understand what are these tags, right? The next concept I wanted to tell you about is, I spoke about developer console. So developer console is, again, you can access developer console anywhere in any website. You can just go hit Command-Shift-I and that will open the developer console. Just go browse through the things and you can see where it is, right? So if I go and select this part, you can see this button, or I can select this div that contains all of these and I can just go delete it. And if I delete it, it'll get deleted. But then it only gets deleted on your browser. It doesn't get deleted on the server. Now this will start to make sense because we selected a part of this thing and deleted it here. But every time you request, it goes through the router, goes to the server and brings the files. So when you delete something here, it hasn't deleted here. So what that means is when I go refresh the page, you will see that again, right? So then I can say Godfather. So see, now that data is back again. Why? Why did this happen? Because when I made a new request, when I refreshed the page, it went to the server, brought all the files again, and displayed it to you again. So that's what happens when you refresh it. So there are operations that's happening on your client, and there are operations that's happening on your server. So we are mostly working on the client for now. We are only requesting the first batch of information from the server, and then whatever we are doing mostly on the client. So that's how you work with a console. So within this console, you have, if you like open it further, you can see lots of, let me close this part so it's a little more cleaner. So you have different things, right? So you have your elements, you have your console where you can write code. We're gonna talk about that in just a bit. But you have sources, which is just exactly the project files and all these different files that your browser stores. So like it's not very often that you work on sources. You would hardly work on it. Network is just like it gives you the entire picture of how these requests are made and what you exactly get. So if I go refresh this page and hit refresh, you can see like all the different, now it'll give you like how long it refreshed and it did a 200 millisecond thing. Wait, let me see if I can. Yeah, so I think this is pretty light. It didn't request a lot of files, but yeah, see, okay, there you go. So it imported all of these files from the server. So it imported a GPT engineer.js file, it's a JavaScript file. It imported this file, it imported like a bunch of files, and it took all these files and it generated this for you, right? So this is useful for us to understand if something is failing and like, if one of these files is broken, then you will get an idea from here. But this is again too technical for us to go into, but just for you to know what is this tab, right? you have more. You have application tab, which is another important one to. We are not going to go through everything, but we'll touch on the things that you will most likely use. And in application tab, you can see your storage, right? So your local storage, the things that it's storing. So it's storing basically what are the movie ratings you did locally. So you can see that data inside local storage. So also you can see session storage, or you can see cookies. So sometimes cookies are just basically your preferences or pieces of information that is stored on your browser that the browser uses frequently for some to identify you. Or you can use cookies to like save your preferences that needs to be persisted across the application. So those sort of stuff, like, if you have a specific language, a preference, things like that will always be stored in cookies. Okay, so main things, again, recap. You need to know how the elements work. You need to know exactly that the HTML is stored here. You need to know that if you were to write script, you would do it in console. You will also see a lot of errors displayed here that you will be able to refer to while fixing your application. And pretty much everything. And then applications, sometimes, very rarely, you might have to use applications when you're like storing something locally and then storing something on the server. That will come in week 3 or week 4, but just know that this is where the storage works. So one last thing, actually two things, is this part that you see under styles is the CSS. So a CSS is is a language for styling your application. It's a simple text-based description, right? So it just says things like use this border color, use this box sizing, these are different variables, like similar to variables on Figma. And then, yeah, it's like if you scroll down, you can see for each element, you can see its CSS. So for example, let me go and select the stars, right? So if I select the star, you can see, hold on, right? So you can see that it has a text yellow color on it. So if I go and like change this color, you can see that it automatically changes, right? So you can go change, it has a transition timing function. Don't, again, like you would never be typing any of this. All of this AI will generate it for you. You're just knowing what's exactly happening behind the scenes. So that's basically, so if you just increase the width, you can see that it increases the width. So before the AI world, you would have had to do all of this manually, but now, thanks to that, you don't have to do any of this. But just know that this is another aspect of an application. So when I go and like say download this application, right? So I can go here and I can say save page as, and let me like store it in my local machine, right? So if I open this folder, you can see the 3 files that I mentioned are here. There's a CSS file, there's an HTML file, and then there's a JS file. There are like 2 JavaScript files. So every application, static application, has just these 3, right? You have a JS, you have a CSS, and you have an HTML. Every file is comprised of only these 3 elements. So, okay, so some more stuff on like what's inside HTML, right? Let me go back. Yeah, so you have your body tag. So body tag, there's always only one body tag. So all the information is inside body tag. And the script tag is where you store your JavaScript. So there are already like, so there are like 2 script tags that you see here. This script tag has some manual script written. Don't worry about what this does, but you can already see in comments what this does. Don't show the lovable badge if the page is an iframe or if it's being rendered. So it's just using a lovable badge, and the script basically disables that badge. And like you can read sometime in the comments, but this script comes from a different source. So your page loads, and then the script is imported from another source, and that script is run in your browser. So this is what this script does. So basically, you have all these three components: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and your script is defined inside your HTML, and your script is what creates interactions in your page. Your CSS is what styles your page. Your HTML is what marks up your contents in the page. That's the main key takeaway. Any questions so far? I know this is a lot of new theory for you all. This is like computer science 101. Okay.
Just one question.
Yeah.
Which is, you mentioned that HTML is like, it marks up the stuff on the page. Like, again, noob here, so I won't claim that I know anything, except for, yeah, the tags. I've heard that when I was in school. You said something which is JavaScript is interactions. Is that what you said?
Yes, JavaScript adds interaction layers to a simple basic HTML, right? Let me see if I can just open one file and just show you.
Yeah.
So if I just open this file in the browser, okay, so this is a script. Hold on, I think what this is doing is importing everything as a HTML file. Okay. So because it's all running in a framework. Okay, so what I can do is if you go to your browser and you create a text file, right? And in this text file, I'll create a new text, new document, and I can just put like HTML. Okay, hold on, I'll copy the HTML from the Lovable and just show you here. Yeah, so I'm going to copy this entire HTML, right? I'm going to go into my browser text thing and I'll remove all the script tag, right? So there's no script tag at all in this HTML. There's only the other stuff, right? So I'm going to save this into my downloads and then I'm going to say home.html, right? Okay. So now I have this home.html. I don't want the RTF. I know I had RTF and HTML. This HTML. Okay. So now if I just drag this HTML file and drop it on the browser, okay. Can you see? It's a bunch of text. It's like it's contained all of this text, but there's no styling. There's no interaction. Like if you click on it, nothing happens. So your HTML only marks up. It marks it up and says, okay, this is a title. This is, you know, this is where you display the name of the movie. This is how you would rate it. So and there's like simple buttons, but it doesn't do anything, right? So with CSS, what we'll do is we'll style this whole thing. With JavaScript, we'll say that when you click on a star, it needs to light up.
Yeah. So to recap, HTML puts everything on the page. CSS styles all of it. JavaScript makes interactions possible with everything that's on the page.
Perfect. Exactly.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any other question? Okay. I assume it's clear. So you got HTML structure, which I just described. It always starts with an HTML, goes and drills down into different wrapping. And then there are headings. There are like multiple types of headings. There are like H1 is like the title level, similar to Markdown, right? So you have H1 to H6. So H6 is like a smaller level heading. So it's important that you define the structure of the headings in a structured way, because your browser understands what's inside your application through this. Search engines understand your application through a clear semantic definition. That's what they call. Semantic definition is basically another way of saying you mark up in a clear structure so your browser can read what's a title and what's a body and kind of make that association between the title and the body, right? Okay, live server. Live server is basically when we are developing something locally. So let's say you want to change this thing, right? So let's say you want to change from how would you rate it. I want to change it to, let me search for how would you. See, I have this text over here, right? So let's say how would you not rate it. I just renamed that how would I rate it to how did I not name it. And then I save this. You see there's nothing, like it didn't change here. Why? Because it only saved in the local machine. So once I refresh it, you will be able to see that, yeah, okay, it changed something else. Oh. So once I refresh it, I bring this to the browser. See, now you can see that it changed. So what it is, why is it not immediately reflecting, is because once you make those changes, that changes needs to be served to the browser. So you have a live server that sends your new updated code to the browser. And this is something that we need because when you're building things locally, you don't want to be always refreshing your page. You want to make a change and it immediately reflects. That's what a live server is. But in the context of Lovable, all of that is happening under the hood. So you don't have to worry about serving your application and making changes. So when you ask to make a change in Lovable, it automatically changes everywhere. Paragraph is another tag. Images, again, like it has another tag called IMG. So you can look up for all the different tags on Mozilla Docs just to familiarize yourself with different tags. HTTP, dynamic web page and static web page are like, basically it's like this, right? So you have your data stored within your application, or you can load your data from a database or an external source. So when it's all stored in your local application, it's a static web page. So your portfolio is a static web page. All the data related to your portfolio is inside the application. But if your portfolio fetches data real time from a database or from an external source, then you make it a dynamic web page, right? So that's the difference between static and a dynamic web page. What's a container? Container is the same as a div that I just showed you. It's a wrapper in your HTML. Prettier it's basically what makes your code look pretty. Again, this is a development term. You would not have to use a prettier unless you use cursor. So this we can skip for now, because on Lovable you wouldn't be prettier. It comes under the hood. These are things related to styling that you have. We touched on colors. So you can, if you go back to my Lovable site. Yeah. So you can see all the different elements within here, right? So you can also filter saying background color, right? And it'll pull out all the different elements related to that. So you can look for color, and you can see all the, you can look up what are the colors defined, and you can just directly play within the browser on how it looks like with those colors. So it has all these properties that I already touched on. You have spacing and margin. We touched on that, how to do it on Lovable. You can also like see the spacing and margin defined in CSS in your browser. Again, you won't be doing it in the browser unless you just want to test it. But these are the styling with which your application is styled: the font, border radius, and display. Okay, here's the assignment, right? So that wraps up your first day for good. So what we are going to do is, now that you have some basic idea of how Lovable works, now take your application and add 1 to 2 features that you want to your application directly on Lovable. So you would just go into your Lovable and just build on top of it, right? Just ask. So I want the movies to be shown as a grid on the landing page, right? For something like that. Just add. Don't add too many things. Just try to add a few features to your application and see how they experience this, right? And also explore the console, what we just described. So once you publish your application, you can open the console and understand, like, see how to navigate a page, see how to point to a specific element and delete it, see how the CSS, you can modify the CSS and things get modified. Just play around with it and just understand how things work. See, it was as simple to create like a dashboard, right? But you'll definitely face issues, right? Like, so when you face an issue, what you can do is always go back and just click on restore. So if I want to go back to this version, I can just go back and restore over here. Let me see. This is okay. So let's say I want to restore to this version. So when I say restore, it'll automatically roll back to a previous version, and everything that you did before, after that, gets nullified. So if you see an issue, note down the issue first. Try to understand what that issue is based on the knowledge that you just gained. Because you understand what basic HTML CSS is, the error messaging that it says will start to make a little more sense to you. See if it makes sense. If it doesn't, go to ChatGPT and try to understand that error better. And if something breaks, go try to restore and try to add a couple of features, right? So that's going to be your first task. So just incrementally build whatever you're building, add 1 to 2 features to it, and yeah, document your issues. Okay, these are some things to remember. Duplicate your app, so you can always pick it up later if you screw it, right? So if you have something that you really like and you don't want to break it, we will go into advanced versions of how to keep a backup without having to do all of this. But for now, what you can do is just go and duplicate this project. You can do it in the dashboard, So I'll just create a duplicate of that project and just keep a copy of it just in case so you don't break. Always roll back and try a simpler approach if you face an error, right? So this is important, right? So most people, what they try to do is they try to, like, if you see an error and then you take that error and ask Lovable to fix itself, it'll automatically ask you if there's an error in the application, and it'll ask to fix itself. And when that error gets fixed, it might create a new error. The most common mistake people do is to keep going down that path until they hope something will work out. That's the wrong way to vibe code, in my opinion. What is a better way is to give it that first shot, and if it throws an error, break down the task into a smaller task, and then roll back and try again. Now this time, the second time you try with a smaller task. So keep doing that so that every time try to get the best result, the error-free result in your first shot. So it's like in your one prompt shot, try to get something without an error. If you see an error, roll back and try again, and roll back and try again. Never keep adding things, because what that does is it might add unnecessary code and it might go into a tangent that you don't intend for it to go. And it'll create a lot of unnecessary code in your database that will become a pain later. Yeah, Nicole.
When you say roll back, what do you mean roll back?
Yeah, so basically when I add a feature, I can go and restore. That's rollback. Restoring is rolling back.
We just restore to the last step and then continue to call that again.
Exactly. But this time, try and break down the task, right? So if it doesn't well, see if you can break down the task into a smaller thing, or be more specific. So let's say in this case, I said add a grid of movies, right? And let's say I threw an error. Then I would be like, add a grid of movies in the home page where it says find movie, right? Let's say this also throws an error. Then I would take a picture of this home page, put it attach as an image, and I would say like find attached an image. Do you see how I'm approaching prompting? I'm adding more and more details onto what I say, and I'm giving references to make my instruction very, very, very clear. So this is how you gradually keep increasing, and try to get your result in one shot prompt. So you say this and it should give you a result without an error. If it does, again, as I said, go back, restore, and try again with more clarity. Make sense?
Okay. Do you need to delete the last one? Delete the last prompt?
Like here?
No.
Yeah, it deletes.
Yeah,
like when
you restore it, and then the prompt below, do you need to delete, for example?
This, yeah. It doesn't matter. It's an input field. Until you like enter, it doesn't recognize it. So only when you write an instruction and hit on enter, then it recognizes it, right?
Okay.
So yeah, so I mean, when you restore, it deletes it. So remember that if you restore, you cannot go back. You cannot go forward. So if you have something working, like if you connect GitHub, you can store all that latest working in another place. But I don't want to confuse you way too much. But at this point, it's best for you all to like try to understand what's happening behind the scenes, and try to keep incrementally building and try to get the concepts clearly. Use ChatGPT to ask questions, right? So because we need the fundamentals very clear, because as you keep growing, you're going to see more errors. And if those errors don't make sense, you're not going to be able to build a solid application. Yeah, Shridaksha.
How do you duplicate a version in this?
Okay, I used to be able to do this in Bolt, but let me see. I'm just checking on Lovable. Should be pretty straightforward in general. Okay, let me see. Settings.
I think you might need to go back to the main page and remix the project.
Ah, okay. So go to the dashboard, yeah? And go to dashboard, and there's the remix option.
So?
I don't see it. Well, maybe it's inside here only, no? Because it'll be like
Or is it like Figma file where you just I'll try it out. I just
Yeah.
wanted to know.
Try it out. If not, like I'll show you what GitHub is like in the next session itself, so that you have, before you go too deep, you'll have some backup options to go back as well. So okay, this is the thing. Yeah, it's funny they don't have a duplicate, because Bolt New has.
I think they have, but they just hidden it. They're changing things all the time. Okay.
Yeah, this is yeah, I mean, okay, don't worry about it. If you don't want to keep a duplicate for now, you just keep it like this. We'll go into how to keep versions on GitHub, and that's a more cleaner approach, and that's a more like proper way to do it. But now I think this should keep you going. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. Next session, yeah, Anna was gonna help us with some styling, how to style your app. So be there next week, add some features, and then we can go into how to style it, and then your assignment will be to style it. So it's going to be the next week's session. Yeah, Karan.
I just have one question going back a bit earlier to this research prompt. Did you create that kind of based on your experience and like kind of refine it with ChatGPT, or is it something you already got from somewhere else?
I made it myself.
Okay.
I made it with, it's just, I tried a few times. I kept updating the prompt on ChatGPT. It's just like, I built it with ChatGPT, but based on my experience. Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure. But prompt sharing is, like, as I said, templates is a very common thing now, you know, there you have prompt marketplaces, like where people are just selling prompts. So having a good prompt is a very valuable asset, actually. So that is kind of similar to productizing your knowledge, because everything that you know, or your approach, your special way of operating, can all be turned into a prompt. And that itself is an asset that you can save for yourself, save for a different purpose. And this is how you become more productive too, you know, save a lot of your repeated work.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure. Yes, Sumedha. You're on mute if you're speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to show my screen in console. I'm having an error and I'm not able to see any tags or anything.
Roll back, right? So roll back to the previous version and review your prompt. Review your prompt to see if you can break it down, add more clarity to it, and try again. It might take a few times, but you'll get it, right?
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. See, that's why, like, you get familiar with like you will start to understand, like, there is a pattern in which, like, how clear you are in the prompt, the better results you get. And this is something that you need to start observing and getting a familiarity yourself. Because as you try more prompts, as the more errors you get, you understand, okay, there's something wrong. There was something wrong with my prompt. What can I make it better, right? And try to use that knowledge of HTML, CSS that you just learned, right? So you would go be like, you know, on this page, just improve the CSS and style it and just do this thing. That's perfectly valid thing to say in your prompt, because you have a little more knowledge and you can speak in its own language, right? Instead of speaking from a very vague language, now speak with the understanding that you just gained. That will give you even more results. Yeah, Siddhant.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, really thank you for conducting this session, Ashwin, because like this was really helpful. But I also had another question on this. Like, so are we also going to cover how to make mobile apps, like native mobile apps? Because like currently this was all web-based experience. But then my core idea was to create a mobile application and publish it to a Play Store. So will we be touch pointing on that part also?
Yes, I wanted to talk to you about this myself as well. See, I think the approach to building a web application, mobile application, are exactly the same, right? So you're going to do exactly the same process when you're building a mobile application, but there will be some changes of the tags that you use, the frameworks that you use. So, but the approach is the same, right? So I think it's better you build this on the web for now, and then once we go into frameworks like React frameworks, then after this session, I'll make a separate session as an extra one, and then tell you how you would do the same thing and build for a mobile application, right? There are subtle differences. Anna has built a mobile app entirely from scratch using the exact same workflow on Bolt.new. Anna, if you want to speak on it, please.
Yeah, I just wrote an article today in the morning about that. Very brief one. And I wouldn't recommend to start with a native app. As Ashwin said, the process is the same, but there are a lot of things that are around this process. You need to build it with a different technologies. You cannot use React, so you cannot use Lovable. You would need to use Bolt or Replit for building with React Native. You cannot convert React into React Native, so you have to start with that. You need to do the Expo. Expo is a tool for kind of bundling React Native apps, and it is a little bit complex. It doesn't it just causes more issues, so you need to debug it more often. Sometimes you really don't know what the issues are. So if it's your first app, I really wouldn't recommend to do that. The prompting process is fairly the same. React Native and React, they look fairly the same. So if you want to look into code, knowing React will really help you with React Native. And then the complicated part is to bundle and submit the app into stores. And that is also like a personal project. You need to download the code base onto your machine and run those Expo commands with VS Code or Cursor. So it's just like a lot of things on top of creating a web app. And I'm building an app right now, and I'm really struggling with it, like with the Expo, because so it's just more complicated. So this being said, once you build your app in React,
I guess.
Anna, your internet is okay. Basically, just to add to what you're saying, you build your web, you have everything that it takes, and the same approach you use on mobile apps, but you have a little more things to adapt.
Yeah, because I was also just worried about the deployment part of the mobile app, because like in Lovable, we just have a published CTA, we can just publish it. But I think, of course, like for mobile, it's more complex, I think.
See, the thing is, if we go directly into building mobile apps, you won't understand where the issues are happening, and you won't be able to you won't be able to know how to fix it. That's why we want to focus on the foundations first, so that you understand the basic things, that the concepts that apply for both web and mobile, so that you can take that same knowledge and try to debug it yourself when it happens on mobile.
Got it.
But we will, I think after the 6 weeks, you take the exact same approach that you do at 6 weeks, and you can start building on your mobile app. And we'll do another session for just focus on mobile. Maybe Anna can help us show how she built her mobile application and give us some tips on it. That'll be cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Cool. So take your ideas. You have access to the prompt builder that I gave you. If you want to change your idea, try something different, feel free to do it. Again, if you want to improve your idea, improve the prompt. If you want to add more features, try doing that today, and try to understand HTML, CSS, the concepts that we discussed. I'll send you the slides. Just make sure you understand how the web page works, right? Like what's inside those files. Those concepts need to be clear, because as you go, you'll face errors, and all of this will start to make sense. Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much. And that's the end of the session. I'll put the recording as well as the slides in school. And what you can do is, we'll see each other in the next Friday, same time. Yeah. Please do your assignments. That's how you'll learn. If you don't do your assignments, your thing won't be look at the concept. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Next week, we'll see each other at 1 p.m. Berlin time.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.